Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to WrestleMania.
Nobody knew exactly what to expect on March 31st, 1985. On this night, the industry stopped and held its collective breath. Would WrestleMania live up to the hype? Would sports entertainment, the flawless mixing of WWE superstars with other celebrities from music, film, and sport, prove to be a hit with the fans? Every man and woman who laced up a pair of boots that night was taking a leap of faith, knowing that they would sink or swim as the event did. With over 19,000 people in the legendary New York arena that night, this would be the most important night in the history of WWE. Lucky for all of us, it was a success, and it formed the foundation for what is without a doubt the quintessential event of the year in sports entertainment. It has constantly grown, pushing the industry to the limits with every blockbuster encounter, every record broken, and then broken again. It's a destination, a fuel for the dreams that burn in those who hope to one day compete. Entire streaks have been built simply based on the results from that one event. Year after year, a simple point to a sign informs everyone that you're being challenged. Winning's always sweet. Winning a WWE championship is even sweeter. But for some reason, nothing can compare to standing tall on the grandest stage of them all. A Sunday night gathering at the arena has, over time, transformed into the monster two-day extravaganza that fills mammoth stadiums with people traveling from all over the world to be there. At WrestleMania, one will experience the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, all done in the name of chasing glory. I'm Corey Graves, and I'd like to welcome you to the WWE 2K24 showcase of the Immortals. Here, we will spotlight some of the biggest, craziest, most jaw-dropping, action-packed matches in WWE history. It'll be on you to retrace the historical footsteps by way of our showcase objectives and lead these titans of industry to victory. This year, as WrestleMania turns 40, let's look back at the journey to get here together and relive some of the most memorable moments from WrestleMania's past. The first WrestleMania set the stage for everything that was to follow.
All the way around the world. Now you know what it's all about, brother.
Celebrities were out in full force, showing that this was the place to be. WrestleMania 2 pushed the boundaries, taking place in 3 different locations: New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles, delivering 3 huge main events. But it would be WrestleMania 3 in 1987 that truly displayed WrestleMania's full potential. And for our first match of the 2K24 showcase of the Immortals, we go into the first verified WrestleMania Classic, the legendary clash for the WWE Intercontinental Championship between champion, the Macho Man Randy Savage, and his challenger, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Intercontinental champion since February of 1986, Savage tore through anyone who challenged him. That included a successful defense against George the Animal Steele at WrestleMania 2. A clash between Savage and Steamboat during a late 1986 edition of Superstars would see the Macho Man retain via countout, but that wasn't good enough. He would launch a vicious attack on the Dragon after the match, taking him out of action. Savage would attempt to duplicate the attack on Steamboat's friend and former opponent George Steele during the first Saturday night's main event of 1987. Fortunately for the Animal, Ricky would make his well-timed return for the save, leading to the rematch between the two at WrestleMania. What transpired between the two combatants can only be described as art. A fast-paced, high-action classic unfolded in front of 90,000 plus in attendance, with both men coming so very close to victory on a number of occasions. Would Savage be able to turn back the challenge of his angry opponent? Would Ricky Steamboat get revenge? These questions would be answered over the next 15 grueling minutes. And when it was over, everyone in attendance and those watching at home knew they had been a part of something special. The two superstars would forever be etched in history following the match, with Ricky Steamboat finally putting an end to the Macho Man's historic reign. The clash between the Dragon and the Macho Man was a jaw-dropping battle between two of WWE's technical masters, an instant classic by all measures. But when the dust had settled and after the smoke had cleared, After Steamboat was carted off proudly holding his Intercontinental Championship above his head, the realization set in. We still have Hulk Hogan against Andre the Giant. Featuring two of WWE's biggest stars at the time, this was the headliner that brought those 90,000 people together in the first place.
Everybody has their best day at WrestleMania. That's the creme de la creme. WrestleMania, main event, there's nothing else in this world like it.
Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant were great friends for years. Andre famously poured the bubbly all over Hogan when he captured the WWE Championship in January of 1984, and the two were nearly inseparable from then on. The two would be presented with trophies in separate weeks. Hogan was given one for reigning as champion for 3 years, while Andre received one for going 15 years without losing. For both ceremonies, Andre was not his usual self, first noting to Hogan that 3 years to be a champion, it's a long time, and ultimately walking out of his own trophy celebration when Hogan arrived to praise Andre's accomplishments. The world was on edge, waiting to see what comes next. Soon after, Andre would appear with Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Wait, what's going on here? Hold on, man. What are you doing with him?
Heenan had gotten to Andre, fanning the flames of resentment that burned inside.
Did you ever once in your life offer him a championship match?
A heartbroken Hogan tried to reason with his friend, but with one move, yanking Hogan's chain from his neck, it was clear there was no turning back.
There's nothing else like getting in the ring with Andre the Giant. It is the great unknown. When you get there and you're with Andre the Giant, you're outmatched, you're outsized, you're outpowered. It's an uphill battle, so you have to fight from underneath. You have to have everything in sync, body, mind, and soul, to survive fighting an opponent like Andre the Giant. When I slammed Andre the Giant, I was surprised how the crowd reacted. 94,000 people lost their breath and gasped at the same time. It overwhelmed me in the ring. It's etched in stone. It's just overwhelming how many people every day approach me and talk about WrestleMania 3.
Now it's up to you to do the impossible and defeat Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. It truly is the irresistible force meeting the immovable object. And WrestleMania 3 ends with real American blasting, a Hulk Hogan pose down, and Andre the Giant and Bobby Heenan stunned in their failure. One of the most important matches not only in WrestleMania history, but WWE history itself. Up next, we jump ahead to WrestleMania 5 in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Those with tickets didn't know it as they entered the venue that evening, but they were about to witness one of WrestleMania's biggest upsets take place right in front of their eyes. The Ultimate Warrior captured the WWE Intercontinental Championship at the inaugural SummerSlam in 1988 by blitzing the Honky Tonk Man, ending his record reign in a little over 30 seconds. Since then, he seemed unstoppable, a lock to become WWE Champion one day. Two people who were not impressed were ravishing Rick Rude and his manager, Bobby the Brain Heenan. The 1987 Slammy Award winner for Best Body felt that Warrior was nothing special, both in-ring and even in terms of physique. This led to Rude challenging Warrior to a super pose down at the 1989 Royal Rumble, where the winner would be decided by the WWE Universe's approval. Pretty quickly, it was clear that the Ultimate Warrior was going to be crowned the People's Choice, and Rude was livid. He'd launch a vicious attack, bringing the competition to an abrupt end. That would lead to the signing of the contract for the two to compete in the Intercontinental Championship match at WrestleMania 5, and the world felt that Warrior would destroy his brash challenger. But Heenan and Rude were more than prepared for the champion. Heenan was desperate to have WWE Gold in his vaunted Heenan family ranks, and he knew that the Ravishing One was the right man for the job. They told anyone who'd listened that Rude was going to beat the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania, and now the time had come. Had they backed Warrior into a corner, or were they about to realize they'd bitten off far more than they could chew? That's a question only you can answer. An arena left completely shocked as Ravishing Rick Rude pins the Ultimate Warrior to win the WWE Intercontinental Championship, with a little assist from his manager, The Brain. Hey, if the ref doesn't see it, he can't call it. Those are the breaks. With the crowd buzzing from the monumental upset, it was time for WrestleMania 5 to deliver its main event. The Macho Man Randy Savage defending the WWE Championship against his former best friend and Mega Powers partner, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, the Macho Man Randy Savage. Dig it. He was one of a kind. He was intense. He was a great athlete. Everything about him was 100% perfect for sports entertainment and professional wrestling.
While the split of the Mega Powers was made official on a February 1989 edition of the Main Event, the cracks had been obvious to many long before that fateful night. Hogan and Savage's friendship had been beneficial to both, which was never more evident than the year prior at WrestleMania 4. On this evening, the vacant WWE Championship was to be decided in a 16-man, one-night tournament. In an absolutely brilliant display of athleticism and heart, the Macho Man would compete in 4 different matches to claim the championship. But it was in the final against the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase that Savage would run into seemingly more trouble than he could handle. In DiBiase's corner was Andre the Giant. Throughout the match, Andre interjected, bringing Savage's offense to a halt, or distracting him for attacks by DiBiase. Eventually, Miss Elizabeth would run into the back, bringing Hogan out to restore some order. And Hogan's presence led to Savage's win with a perfectly timed chair shot that the ref didn't catch. Like I said before, those are the breaks. The Mega Powers would be locked in a heated rivalry with Andre and DiBiase, now known as the Mega Bucks, that culminated with their victory at the very first SummerSlam. Around this time, though, it appeared Randy Savage was jealous of the closeness between Hogan and Elizabeth. Some on commentary would mention it, but many were quick to dismiss that there was any tension between the two. Things got worse at the 1989 Royal Rumble when Hogan eliminated Savage, some claim accidentally, which infuriated the Macho Man. Everything came to a head at the Main Event 2 on February 3rd, 1989. The Mega Powers would compete in tag team action, looking to show the bond was still strong. After Miss Elizabeth was caught up in the action, Hogan would take her to the back for medical attention, leaving the Macho Man alone. Upon his return to the match, Hogan would extend a hand to tag in, but would instead be slapped in the face by an enraged Randy Savage. A post-match altercation in the locker room would make it official. The Mega Powers were dead, and a clash was inevitable. Soon after, Hogan would lay down the challenge for WrestleMania 5. In a final twist, Miss Elizabeth would side with neither man, insisting that she'd be ringside in a neutral corner instead, offering to help either if they needed it. We were able to sit down with Hulk Hogan to talk about the night the Mega Powers exploded.
The lines were so blurry between reality and what we were trying to accomplish. He was madly in love with his wife, Elizabeth, for real. He was madly jealous for real. Leading up to it, you know, when she was managing him or managing me or couldn't depend on who she was going to manage, it made him crazy. I just didn't know what type of abuse I was in for, so it was a little nuts. He was there to go, and he pushed the gas pedal down really hard on me in that match. Once you became a Macho Man fan, that was the only thing you could think about. His look, just the way he carried himself. I had nothing but respect for him.
It's always so great to hear from the legends themselves when it comes to these unforgettable WrestleMania moments and matches. Thanks again to Hulk Hogan for his time. Now, let's get you into the middle of an intensely heated WWE Championship match where the world would watch the Mega Powers explode. The sports entertainment world could only brace for impact as Savage and Hogan battled, and when it was over, a common WrestleMania sight was seen. Hulk Hogan celebrating in the ring with the WWE Championship back in his possession. And as the 1980s gave way to the 90s, around the world there was a real sense of looking for the next big thing. The newest, the coolest, the fastest, the strongest, anything to show where the future was. This was also the case in WWE. Amongst the members of the WWE Universe, many saw the Ultimate Warrior as the heir apparent to the throne that Hulk Hogan had occupied for 6 years. The untamed superstar appeared capable of matching Hogan's strength and had dominated all other opponents. Even that loss we relived at WrestleMania 5 against Rick Rude, yeah, he avenged that just a few months later at SummerSlam, regaining the Intercontinental Championship in the process. But this talk all seemed like fantasy, only existing as a dream match. Hogan and Warrior weren't enemies, and for either of them to turn against the other would run against the strict codes of honor to which both men claimed to adhere. All of that changed in the 1990 Royal Rumble match. It was brief, but for a moment, the only two men in the ring were, you guessed it, Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. The crowd went nuts, and these two stared at each other for a minute before circling up. Two running tackles led nowhere. and then a double clothesline floored both men, ending things before they could really get started between the two. That small taste, though, was all the world of sports entertainment needed to know that they wanted more. Even more interesting, it would be Hulk Hogan who would challenge the Ultimate Warrior to a contest at WrestleMania 6.
Ultimate Warrior, me and my Hulkamaniacs put the championship on the line.
Hogan openly stated that he needed to know which power was truly the strongest in WWE, his or that of the Warrior. Adding to the stakes was the stipulation that both the WWE and Intercontinental Championships would be up for grabs, leaving the winner with supreme claim to lead WWE into the next decade. All right, now it's your turn to try and shock all the little Hulkamaniacs out there and try to beat Hogan at WrestleMania 6. Can you harness the power of the Ultimate Warrior? There's only one way to find out. An incredible victory for the Ultimate Warrior there, becoming the first superstar to hold the WWE and Intercontinental Championships at the same time. A truly historic feat on the grandest stage of them all. A victory that signaled a new wave of change that was about to hit all of WWE. Rowdy Roddy Piper managed to change his luck in WWE when he captured his first championship in the company at the 1992 Royal Rumble. The wrestling world rejoiced for Hot Rod as the fiery superstar showed true emotion in the moment, revealing how much it meant to him. Once the most reviled man on the roster, he was now appreciated for his authenticity. Everyone was happy for him, except for one guy. Bret the Hitman Hart had changed his status in WWE in the spring and summer of 1991. When his legendary Hart Foundation amicably split the team, Bret would use the opportunity to springboard up the singles rankings, winning the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam that year. Wanting to be an active champion, Bret faced off against all comers, finding victory each time out. Until a few nights prior to the 1992 Royal Rumble, when Hart lost the Intercontinental Championship. And before he could get a rematch, Piper had swooped in and won the thing. The last thing the Hitman wanted to do was ruin Roddy Piper's moment. The two were close. Piper had trained in the family dungeon and spoke glowingly of not only Bret, but his entire family.
I gotta tell you how much I loves your family. I gotta tell you how much I loves your mom. I knowed you, I know this guy since he's been knee-high to a grasshopper.
Respectfully, the two agreed to compete at WrestleMania 8, which would emanate from Indianapolis, Indiana. But Piper understood that many felt Bret lost that title at less than 100%, and that he'd have to defeat Hart in the ring to get those people on his side. And while both men claimed they'd keep it respectful, most everyone understood what happens when you push Roddy Piper to the edge. And trying to take something from Roddy Piper is one way to do it, especially when it's the first title he ever held in WWE. And so it was Bret Hart's technical mastery against Roddy Piper's street fighting in an unheralded classic was produced by two absolute masters of their craft. And while they both tried to keep it friendly, you just knew it wasn't going to last. Nearly 20 furious minutes of action unfolded between the two, each with near victories along the way. Blood, sweat, and tears was never more appropriate. The two gave their all on the goal of earning the WWE Intercontinental Championship. So, get in there and do your best to beat Roddy Piper to the punch. But beating Hot Rod is no easy task, even if you are the best there is, the best there was, or the best there ever will be. A somewhat forgotten classic sees the excellence of execution using every last trick in his repertoire to pull out the victory over Roddy Piper. And WrestleMania 8 sees a rare pinfall loss for Hot Rod, but an even rarer display of professionalism from him makes the moment all the more memorable. Up next on this WrestleMania train down memory lane, we go to WrestleMania 10 in New York City, and the first ladder match to ever take place at WrestleMania. Shawn Michaels captured his first Intercontinental Championship with a big win over the British Bulldog on Saturday night's main event in the fall of 1992. But in the fall of 1993, Michaels would be stripped of the championship due to inactivity. As the Heartbreak Kid watched from the sidelines, Razor Ramon would capture the vacant championship. At the 1993 Survivor Series, Michaels would announce that he was back and that he only had one mission: to humiliate Razor Ramon, who he considered to be a fake champion. Having never been defeated in the ring, HBK still believed he was the rightful Intercontinental Champion.
There is only one
undisputed Intercontinental Champion, and it is the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
Never one to back down from a fight, Ramon was more than ready to face Michaels anytime, any place. But Shawn wanted to play games with the bad guy, interfering in his matches and even performing Ramon's vaunted Razor's Edge finisher to taunt him. Shawn was also very open about relying on his 7-foot monster of a bodyguard, Diesel, to help him get through any tough situations. WWE officials, forced with figuring out how to decide who the true Intercontinental Champion was, came to a decision. Both championship titles would be suspended above the ring in a ladder match. The winner would be the first superstar able to incapacitate their opponent long enough to climb the ladder, grab both championships, and finally settle the issue once and for all. This matchup would see both men use everything they could to stop the other, including the ladder repeatedly. It was used as a battering ram, even as a perch from which to dive for a huge splash. Both Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels laid it all on the line in this epic clash, leaving everyone breathless with each new flurry of offense. So, you're gonna have to do your best to deal with not only a Mr. WrestleMania who wants his Intercontinental Championship, but also with the menacing Diesel at ringside. Stay focused, and maybe you'll be oozing enough machismo to climb that ladder of success. One of WrestleMania's greatest collisions comes to its scintillating conclusion with Razor Ramon just managing to outlast Shawn Michaels, claiming possession of the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 10. The ladder match would open the door for future classics, like the TLC and Money in the Bank matches as well, forever sealing its place in WrestleMania lore. Our next match is another legendary moment that will live forever, as we head to WrestleMania 13. Rosemont, Illinois would play host to the most important night on the sports entertainment calendar. And on this night, a match that is the literal definition of an all-time classic unfolded. Bret Hart had been the face of WWE's new generation for years, proudly defending the WWE Championship against all comers and defending WWE's honor against its most heinous villains. After losing the WWE Championship to Shawn Michaels in WrestleMania 12's Iron Man match, the Hitman took some time off to consider his future options. When he returned, roughly 6 months later, there were drastic changes to the landscape of WWE's universe. Top among those was the rise of Stone Cold Steve Austin. The man who started the year off as Ted DiBiase's ringmaster would find freedom in his true identity, dropping his manager and finding superstardom in the wake of his 1996 King of the Ring tournament victory.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
WWE was trying to find its attitude, but the seeds of change were being planted in the fans who had rallied around Austin. His no-nonsense attitude had made him the ultimate anti-hero. This acceptance of someone who flaunted his breaking of the rules didn't sit right with the Hitman. When Bret made his return, he immediately challenged Austin, who was more than ready to answer the call. The two battled at 1996's Survivor Series, where Hart won in a masterful performance of a feverish back-and-forth battle. The loss only made Austin angrier, creating a single focus for him: to ruin Bret Hart's career. He'd eliminate Hart from the 1997 Royal Rumble match after officials missed Hart first eliminate Austin. The night after Hart captured the WWE Championship at Final Four, Austin would interfere in Hart's first defense on Raw, ending the reign before it could even get started. WWE officials would pit the rivals against each other in a no disqualification submission match. The loser would be forced to admit they were defeated by the better combatant. To make sure that order would be maintained, a special referee was assigned: the world's most dangerous man and former MMA champion, Ken Shamrock. And while Hart had the edge in submission wrestling, Austin was no slouch in that department. And he also had one other thing going for him: his promise to the world that he would never in a million years give up. Once the match started, these two unleashed months of hatred on one another. We were lucky enough to talk to the Rattlesnake himself, Stone Cold Steve Austin, to get his thoughts on this classic encounter.
A lot of people think that the WrestleMania 13 match between myself and Bret the Hitman Hart is one of the best of all time. Certainly one of the best in all of WrestleMania. To me, it's a very special match because everything happened so magically, and specifically WrestleMania 13 cemented the legacy of who and what Stone Cold Steve Austin was. From start to finish, we started it off, we brawled out, we came back into the ring, we brought various factors from around the ring into the ring to use against each other. Some of the stuff backfired on me. It was full of chills, thrills, and spills. I gotta call a spade a spade. I mean, it is my favorite all-time match, and I've been to some classics.
Always an honor to get to pick the brain of one of WWE's top-level legends. Thank you again to Stone Cold for talking with us about WrestleMania 13. Now it's on you to try and find a way to take out WWE's toughest SOB. Remember, there are no disqualifications, so use whatever you can, and maybe you'll find a way to get him to surrender. I just wouldn't recommend messing with the referee. Shamrock's ankle lock is nasty. Despite being victorious, Bret Hart's post-match attack on Steve Austin only served to galvanize the fans into fully supporting Stone Cold. And Austin, even in defeat, would only increase his reputation by living up to his word, refusing to surrender in the match. Steve Austin fighting the sharpshooter with everything he has remains an enduring WrestleMania moment in a career filled with them. 4 years later, Austin found himself in a very different position in WWE. Taken out in a heinous attack at the 1999 Survivor Series, Austin would be out for nearly a year before returning at No Mercy in 2000. Austin would first look to exact revenge on those who took him out, Rikishi and Triple H, before setting his sights on regaining the WWE Championship. Stone Cold would then head to the 2001 Royal Rumble, entering at number 27. Before he could enter the ring, he'd again be attacked by Triple H, looking to avenge Austin's interference earlier in the night. Austin was in bad shape, but somehow managed to emerge victorious, securing his opportunity to compete for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 17. Defending against Austin would be The Rock, Austin's main rival for years. The two legends personify the Attitude Era, and had previously met for the WWE Championship in the main event of WrestleMania 15. That night, Stone Cold managed to defeat the corporate champ to regain the championship. On that same night that Rock captured the WWE Championship at No Way Out 2001, Austin would face Triple H in a 3 stages of hell match. Each fall would be held under different rules: a standard match, a street fight, and then a steel cage if necessary. While Austin took the early lead in winning the first fall, he'd lose the next 2 in a heartbreaker to Triple H. The loss shook Austin, who felt the wave of momentum he was riding should have been unstoppable. Heading into WrestleMania, Austin would speak openly about how he didn't just want the win, but that he needed it.
I need to beat you, Rock. I need it more than anything that you can ever imagine.
When you headline an event, you've got to be on top of your game, be in the best of your game to put on a show and to warrant that main event status.
Austin was going to do everything he could to guarantee the nearly 68,000 attending in his home state of Texas would not be disappointed. The People's Champ had other ideas. He had worked hard while Austin was out to establish himself as the man in WWE, and the opportunity to prove his status with this WrestleMania rematch had the Brahma Bull almost bursting at the seams. If anything was for sure, it was that The Rock would do one thing, and one thing only.
Just bring it!
He'd been through the battles, he'd come into his own, nothing was handed to him, he earned it all, and he turned himself into the most electrifying man in sports entertainment. At no point in time in wrestling history were 2 stars, 2 wrestlers, as hot as both I was and The Rock was. It's hard to explain why we're such good opponents. We just were.
So now it's time for you to head into one of the biggest WrestleManias of all time, WrestleMania 17 in 2001. A night that serves as the pinnacle of the Attitude Era's excellence, with its 2 biggest names doing battle once again. Are you ready to open up a can on The Rock? Or will you find out that going one-on-one with the Great One isn't the electrifying opportunity it appears to be? One of the most stunning endings in WrestleMania history sees Stone Cold Steve Austin align with Mr. McMahon to regain the WWE Championship. WrestleMania 17 was in many ways the last stand for WWE's Attitude Era. Steve Austin and Triple H formed a 2-man power trip as an impending invasion from WCW and ECW would forever alter WWE. So much talent in one spot would lead to the brand split and a new era, one of ruthless aggression. And at WrestleMania 20, WWE returned to its roots in New York City. proudly featuring two ring generals competing for the WWE Championship, with Eddie Guerrero defending against Kurt Angle. From his arrival to WWE in late 1999, Kurt Angle was an absolute natural in a WWE ring. His rookie year would see him capture the European, Intercontinental, and WWE Championships, an astounding accomplishment. The Olympic gold medalist always used his three I's: intensity, integrity,
And intelligence.
to either be a champion or to be competing for a championship. Angle lost the WWE Championship to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 19 in Seattle and looked for the opposite result at WrestleMania 20. Carrying months of resentment, Kurt looked to right the wrongs as he challenged for the championship. Despite coming from a legendary wrestling family, Eddie would not receive the path to instant stardom that his opponent did. Instead, he worked his way up from Mexico to ECW and then to WCW before finally earning a chance with WWE. It took him years to finally realize his dream, and once he had, Eddie did everything he could to keep it. In 2004, Eddie won a 15-man mini Royal Rumble that granted him a match against Brock Lesnar at No Way Out for the WWE Championship. The last man he eliminated? Yep, Kurt Angle. Still, at this point, the two appeared to be on friendly terms, even if the disappointment was obvious for Kurt. And at No Way Out in San Francisco, Eddie would achieve the impossible, defeating Brock Lesnar to finally hold the WWE Championship.
It was Eddie Guerrero's time. It was his time to show that he was a top performer. So I knew Eddie was on a roll, and I knew my work was cut out for me.
Angle was victorious in a triple threat match to be named the #1 contender. On the surface, it seemed all was well. Two fantastic competitors who would battle to see who was better. But it turned out that Kurt Angle had been seething ever since that 15-man Rumble. And with his match set, he struck. Attacking Eddie while working as a special guest referee, Angle went ballistic on Latino Heat.
I felt the need to beat Eddie Guerrero, not just beat him, but beat him up and try to hurt him.
The tone was set. This was not about competition or athletic pursuit. This was about a former champion desperate to reclaim his throne, and a new champion who wasn't going to let anyone take his dreams away from him. Now it's time for you to put Kurt Angle in the silver medal position and find a way to retain Eddie Guerrero's WWE Championship at WrestleMania. But if you're not careful, Kurt's gonna grab that ankle, and you'll have two choices: tap or snap. Eddie Guerrero, Latino Heat himself, showing that he did indeed know all the tricks needed to defeat Kurt Angle. Whoever thought that a loose boot could ever be so helpful? A fantastic win in a very special matchup, and Eddie Guerrero remains WWE Champion at WrestleMania 20. For our next match, we go to the very next year, and WrestleMania 21 in Los Angeles, California. The card was loaded from top to bottom and would feature the first WWE and World Championship victories for two guys named John Cena and Batista. Ever heard of them? But also on this night, a dream match of the highest order was set to take place. Folks, the issue between Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle blew up so quickly and so unexpectedly. It all started at the 2005 Royal Rumble match. After falling short in a WWE Championship match earlier in the night, Angle would steal someone else's number, looking for one last chance at a WWE Championship. Shawn Michaels also had dreams of headlining another WrestleMania, and winning the Rumble match was the only place to do that. Shawn was number 19, while Kurt entered at 20. And Angle was a whirlwind of offense once he hit the ring. But it was to be short-lived, as Michaels would stun the crowd and eliminate Angle only 37 seconds after his arrival on the scene. Kurt went ballistic, attacking Shawn and eliminating him from the Rumble. A dream match that could headline any card. Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels was not going to be about stealing the show or making memories.
My issue with you goes all the way back to 1996. I won a gold medal. And people are talking to me about some guy named Shawn Michaels gliding down from the rafters that year and putting on a wrestling clinic.
Kurt would reveal an obsession with proving himself superior to Michaels in every way possible, which included defeating former partners of Michaels, along with delivering an incredible rendition of Sexy Kurt, Angle's version of Shawn Michaels' entrance theme.
I'm just a sexy Kurt. I'll make your ankle hurt. Ankle hurt! Woo!
So with all the stars out in full force for WrestleMania 21, two of the greatest all-around performers in WWE history were finally set to lock horns. And here to provide us with some first-hand insight on this contest, Kurt Angle sat down with us.
WrestleMania is just, it's the most popular sporting event of all time. It's the most important event for any pro wrestler, and when you get there and you're able to perform there, it's a true honor. I consider Shawn Michaels the greatest overall entertainer in the history of the business. Shawn is the type of individual that puts on five-star matches show after show after show. And if you don't have that five-star match with Shawn, then there's something wrong with you. You know you're gonna have to up your game, and you have to be at your very best. Once we locked horns at WrestleMania, the chemistry was there. I just thought that Shawn and I might have had possibly the greatest match of all time.
A true honor. Thank you to Kurt Angle for sharing his thoughts about his sublime encounter with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 21. With that, it's time for you to show that you've got the intensity, integrity, and intelligence to defeat Shawn Michaels under the brightest lights in sports entertainment. You know Mr. WrestleMania will be looking for every opportunity to stop you in your tracks with a little sweet chin music if you get too reckless. In a world where dream matches don't always live up to the hype, Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 21 far surpassed it. Nearly a half hour of a hard-fought battle with Kurt Angle earning the highlight submission of his career, getting Shawn Michaels to tap out to the ankle lock. But Shawn Michaels was far from done. 4 years after the spectacular encounter against Angle, HBK would find himself set for another dream match. But this wasn't a rivalry that exploded out of nowhere. And this wasn't against a superstar who looked to match Michaels move for move. At WrestleMania 25, Shawn Michaels faced a man with whom he'd crossed paths many times, The Undertaker. A matchup that would completely envelop the WWE Universe from the second it was announced. Two of WWE's longest tenured gladiators, they had engaged in battle many times before, but it had also been quite a while since they faced off one-on-one with any real stakes. Classic battles between the two during the Attitude Era saw the birth of the Hell in a Cell match, and a casket match so physical, it eventually caused Michaels to take a 4-year break from action. Every time the two faced off, it was an intense collision that saw the winner just barely skate by. Shawn won Hell in a Cell and the casket match at the 1998 Royal Rumble, but he never looked like the winner. At the 2007 Royal Rumble, all that was in the past. So when Undertaker and Shawn Michaels were the final two in the Rumble match, there was an awakening. The crowd roaring louder with each passing second. A back and forth clash would see Undertaker get the elimination and the Rumble victory that night, but there was unfinished business between the two. As 2009 started off, things fell into place. Undertaker failed to win the Rumble and came up short again at the Elimination Chamber, leaving him without any WrestleMania plans. That would all change when Shawn Michaels, now under the employ of JBL after a bad business decision, regained his independence and defeated JBL in a match where the winner would get the chance to end The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak. Now, Mr. WrestleMania would take on the event's undefeated phenom, and the world stood still to watch it unfold. Embracing light to counteract Undertaker's dark powers, Michaels believed himself to be the chosen one to earn that first WrestleMania victory over the Dead Man. Now, it's up to you to protect Undertaker's streak and take down the showstopper. Or will it be you that will be forced to rest in peace? As badly as the WWE Universe wanted to see Shawn Michaels against The Undertaker, it seems that the two WWE legends wanted it even more, both giving it everything they had, both using some old tricks and some new ones. But ultimately, it ended as all of Undertaker's WrestleMania matches had to that point, a tombstone and a huge win. But nothing lasts forever, and Undertaker was about to learn this very painful lesson courtesy of Brock Lesnar. Oh yeah, you already know what this is about. Brock returned to WWE from the world of mixed martial arts in 2012, ready to conquer the world. A loss to John Cena would quickly derail the hype, but a rebound victory over Triple H at SummerSlam seemed to have the beast back on track. Still, Brock wasn't where he wanted to be as of the fall of 2013 approached, so he took a sabbatical from WWE. He'd return near the end of the year, demanding a WWE Championship match. Despite attempting to force the match, Brock was not given what he wanted. Instead, he'd receive an open contract for an opponent at WrestleMania. And this open contract would be answered by none other than The Undertaker, who would sign in Brock's blood after putting him through a table. It seemed impossible. Undertaker's streak was beyond legend, with names like Diesel, Randy Orton, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels all proudly displayed on the list. Even someone as monstrous as Brock Lesnar was seen as an underdog heading into the encounter. But Lesnar and his manager, Paul Heyman, were confident that they had what they needed to send a shockwave throughout all of WWE. They knew that with a win at WrestleMania, the world would be Brock's. He wouldn't have to demand anything ever again. It'd just be given to him. And New Orleans, Louisiana was prepared to see two of WWE's baddest brawlers collide in the center of the ring. Would an F5 send Undertaker's streak spinning? Would Undertaker find a way to send yet another opponent to rest with the other lost souls? You're going to have to step into the most intimidating scenario in WWE history, competing against The Undertaker at WrestleMania. You managed to protect the streak earlier. Can you now bring it to an end and leave everyone in attendance speechless? Quite possibly the most jaw-dropping result in WrestleMania history. The Undertaker streak ends at the hands of Brock Lesnar. The looks on the faces of those in attendance told us everything. Nobody saw this coming. Our next match takes us to the greater Bay Area of Northern California and WrestleMania 31 in 2015. Seth Rollins had been on top of the world ever since he decided to leave the Shield behind to do the bidding of the Authority. This move paid off instantly, as he'd capture the Money in the Bank briefcase in July of 2014. Rollins was untouchable, protected by those in power, and with the knowledge that at any moment, he could turn that briefcase into the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. All seemed to be well within the ranks of the Authority, but the harmony would not last long. Randy Orton, who had been the Authority's top hand until Rollins joined the ranks, didn't seem so happy with the favoritism his former rival was now enjoying. This would come to a head with Rollins attacking Orton following a tag team match, connecting with his vaunted stomp to make it clear that their association was now over. The Viper was furious, attempting to get revenge, but never quite finding it. Another stomp from Rollins would force Orton out of action for a few months, with Rollins bragging about his actions the entire time. But at Fastlane in February of 2015, Orton would make his return following a six-man tag featuring Rollins, delivering RKOs to everyone who got in his way. But as luck would have it, Rollins would manage to escape unharmed. Orton made it clear he wanted one thing, and one thing only: Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. Orton wanted to show the Authority they made a huge error in backing Rollins instead of Orton, and he was going to make an example of their new Golden Boy. The pressure's on. Can you humble Seth Rollins in front of an enormous WrestleMania audience, or will this legend be the one you can't kill? The Stomp meets the RKO. Next. Seth Rollins crashes to earth with one of the most famous RKOs ever, ending his quest for victory. A statement win for Randy Orton, but Seth Rollins wasn't done yet. Later that same evening, Brock Lesnar would take part in a match that had another surprising conclusion. The WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Brock had used his victory over Undertaker at WrestleMania 30 to get a championship match against John Cena at SummerSlam 2014, taking the title from Cena in a scary display of dominance. Since that victory, Brock had steamrolled everyone put in front of him, including an impressive defense of the title at the 2015 Royal Rumble against both Cena and Seth Rollins. It did not matter who stood across from Lesnar, he was going to eat, sleep, suplex, repeat his way to victory after victory. Roman Reigns capitalized on his growing momentum by winning the 2015 Royal Rumble, punching his ticket to take on the WWE World Heavyweight Champion at WrestleMania 31. The future tribal chief knew that he was destined to become WWE World Heavyweight Champion, showing no fear or intimidation in the presence of Lesnar. In a completely unexpected twist, something took place during that match that turned everything upside down. During a moment that saw both Lesnar and Reigns down on the mat, it would be the music of Seth Rollins that would hit, as he would be cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase. And just like that, a one-on-one contest became a triple threat. To tell us more about what some consider to be the greatest cash-in ever, we have the visionary himself, Seth Rollins.
For WWE superstars, for myself especially, WrestleMania is everything. We work year-round, tirelessly, grinding, sacrificing. Every year you get ready to put on the best show. You want everything to peak at the right time because you know that that moment is going to be the most watched, witnessed moment of the entire year. And if you do it right, you can create something that's bigger than you and in some ways transcends our entire industry. I had my sights set on the main event of WrestleMania for some time, though. I just needed the perfect opportunity to make sure that the cash-in was a success. When it's all said and done, if I'm remembered for nothing else, I will live forever in that moment.
Big thanks to Seth Rollins for giving us the time to talk about WrestleMania 31 and the cash-in heard around the world. Now it's up to you to figure out how you're going to walk out of this incredible encounter with the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. They've built it up, but can you burn it down? History made with Seth Rollins leaving the main event of WrestleMania, a match in which he wasn't even scheduled to participate as WWE World Heavyweight Champion. For my money, it's the greatest cash-in ever and only proves that Seth Rollins has always been the visionary. WrestleMania has always been the place where the impossible's made possible, where dreams become a reality. And that was never more apparent than at WrestleMania 35 in New Jersey, when for the first time in its history, WrestleMania was main evented by the women of WWE. Ronda Rousey arrived in WWE like a tornado, first impressing in her debut at WrestleMania 34 before steamrolling her way to the Raw Women's Championship at SummerSlam 2018. The former MMA champion looked unstoppable, using her wide array of throws and arm bars to hold everyone at bay. As Survivor Series approached, Becky Lynch, now SmackDown Women's Champion, would be set up to compete against Rousey. Unfortunately for Becky, she'd be replaced by Charlotte Flair after Becky was taken out of action following an inter-brand brawl on Raw. At Survivor Series, Charlotte would show a vicious side in a disqualification loss to Rousey. Becky, however, wanted this fight more than anything. At the 2019 Royal Rumble, Becky Lynch would enter the match in someone else's place, ultimately winning it all by eliminating, you guessed it, Charlotte Flair. But before everything could be finalized, more bad news for Becky, as an injury to her knee led to her not being cleared to compete at WrestleMania, and WWE would replace her with Charlotte Flair. Becky would not sit by and just let that happen, however, and ultimately got her clearance. With that, she was added back to the match, and we now had a triple threat set up for the Raw Women's Championship. The surprises were not done, though. Shortly before WrestleMania, Charlotte would shock the world of sports entertainment by defeating Asuka for the SmackDown Women's Championship. And now the match would be winner takes all, meaning the winner would be both Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion. Three of the most talented women on the roster looked to dazzle the world in the first ever women's main event at WrestleMania. Can you go out there and be the last kicker we all know Becky to be? Or will Charlotte and Ronda prove to be too much for you to overcome? Time to show everyone who really is the man. On a night that saw Seth Rollins run through Brock Lesnar, the final battle of Triple H and Batista, and Kurt Angle's last match, the occasion belonged to Becky Lynch, who ended the night holding both the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships high above her head triumphantly, a moment that truly will live forever. Now we jump ahead to WrestleMania 36, the only WrestleMania in history with 0 attendance, a record, and the first to take place on both days of the weekend. It also featured one of the most bizarre matches in the event's existence, the Firefly Funhouse match between The Fiend Bray Wyatt and John Cena. Cena won a hard-fought match against Wyatt at WrestleMania 30 in 2014, a heartbreaking result for Wyatt, who could not handle the failure. He'd rebuild, capturing the WWE Championship, discovering his inner Fiend, and also capturing the Universal Championship. But he never forgot about the pain of that WrestleMania 30 loss. So when Cena showed up on SmackDown after some time away to announce that he would not be competing at WrestleMania 36, The Fiend took the opportunity to persuade him to reconsider. A simple point to the WrestleMania sign was all that was needed to signal the challenge, with Cena tipping his cap to accept it. Wyatt would lay out the conditions. John Cena would have to venture into the Firefly Funhouse if he wanted this match, where he, The Fiend, would be waiting. Not one to ever back down, Cena remained unfazed. Sure, he didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but he had to trust in himself and his skills. Skills that had delivered a victory over this man before. But he knew that this was not going to be easy, and that he was walking into the base of the enemy. And without the voices of the WWE Universe to cheer him on, Cena would have to face the mind games of The Fiend alone and hope that he was strong enough to survive. But it's up to you to break Cena down and show him that in the Firefly Funhouse, there is no one as powerful as The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. Yowie wowie indeed. John Cena fights valiantly, but ultimately succumbs to the powers that exist inside the Firefly Funhouse. And The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, finally avenges a loss that had eaten at him for 6 long years. A total nightmare for John Cena. Many of the matches in the 2K24 showcase are easy dream matches. And as we know, usually a dream match is something that fans talk about, pitting 2 superstars against each other when they know that will never really happen. But at WrestleMania 38, we saw a different variation of what a dream match can be. With a simple invitation, Kevin Owens put the wheels in motion for his personal dream match, one against WWE Hall of Famer, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Asking for Austin to be a guest on the KO show was just step 1. Next was to disparage the state of Texas whenever he had the opportunity.
I've been here for a couple of days, and it's actually worse than I remembered.
And then it was to extend that trash talk to Austin himself. Stone Cold hadn't competed at WrestleMania since a 2003 loss to The Rock at WrestleMania 19, but he still had plenty of fight in him. With WrestleMania 38 taking place in Texas, Austin knew that he had to show up and hit Kevin Owens with whatever he needed to shut his mouth. Whether that was 1 Stone Cold Stunner or 15, it didn't matter to WWE's toughest SOB. We were able to sit down with Kevin Owens to talk about how this all came together.
It was pretty surreal when the video aired of him accepting the challenge. You know, him driving out in the middle of the desert on his four-wheeler or whatever you want to call it, and then hearing him answer me directly and saying,
Stone Cold Steve Austin is going to open up one last can of whoop-ass on you, Kevin Owens.
That threat made me so excited. I was so pumped. Career highlight for sure to have Stone Cold Steve Austin cut a promo on me. As far as WrestleManias go, I think the match with Stone Cold takes the cake as the top spot.
Stunner!
Before I started using the stunner, I'd asked him for permission and advice. I don't know that he told me every secret, to be honest. His stunner is the best, because mine didn't keep him down, but his kept me down, so he's onto something.
19 years in the making!
He trusted me to be a worthy opponent for what was his first match back in 19 years. The fact that he was willing to do that with me, that's a huge, huge compliment.
Always a privilege to get to speak to Kevin Owens, and we thank him for the time. We were also able to capture a little message from Stone Cold himself, who wanted to extend the following to Owens.
Hey, Kevin. I just wanted to say thank you very much for a hell of a night at WrestleMania 38. You motivated me and got me off my ass 19 years removed. And to be able to go back to Dallas, Texas, the city that I started in 1989, and bring everything full circle, it means a lot to me. Being out there in the ring with you was a blast. Taking that suplex on the concrete was a blast. Kevin Owens, you're awesome.
Steve, I appreciate that more than you'll ever know. And now that we're cool, maybe next time we could share a beer with, I have a can in my hand, you have a can in yours, instead of you just taking a swig and spitting it in my face and mouth. You got my number. You used it before WrestleMania to send me insults in the middle of the night. I didn't forget.
They might get along now, but at WrestleMania 38, it was an all-out war. Can you guide Austin to a WrestleMania victory after 19 years away? Or will KO deal out the ultimate insult, winning the match with his own version of the stunner? If you think you got what it takes, give me a hell yeah. A majestic homecoming for Stone Cold Steve Austin sees the Rattlesnake drop KO with the Stone Cold Stunner, locking in the victory. Austin sets a WrestleMania record with 20 years going between WrestleMania wins, as his previous victory at the event was over Scott Hall at 2002's WrestleMania 18. Cheers to Stone Cold. Moving on, we arrive at WrestleMania 39. Last year's spectacular that played host to many show-stopping moments, and night one was where we got to watch the scintillating rematch between Judgment Day's Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship. The two first met at WrestleMania 36, when Charlotte, the winner of the 2020 Women's Royal Rumble match, used her guaranteed championship match to call out then NXT Women's Champion Ripley. It was a competitive affair, but Charlotte walked out with the victory and the NXT Women's title. 3 years later, though, things had changed. Ripley had arrived to the main roster, and at WrestleMania 37, she defeated